Good afternoon and welcome to the Youth Sport Trust Conference here in Telford, and I'm joined today by 4 head teachers. On my right, Billy Downie and John Martin from secondary school, and on my left, Denise Gladwell and Dawn Forshaw from primary. And between us, we're going to have a look at the whole impact of health and well-being on pupils' attainment, achievement, behaviour, attendance, truancy, and all the key issues that are probably worrying every school around the country. So let's start off by talking to Billy. Billy, before we get on to the sort of impact of sport in your school, talk to me a little bit about how on earth you provide this massive provision of sports clubs and opportunities for every young person.
Actually, I think it starts with an ethos. I do think that if the ethos and the culture of the school is right, more people are willing to buy into it. But there are some really special individuals, you know, people that work with children with special educational needs and learning difficulties and our disabled students. You know, we have additional funding for 5 students with physical disability. We actually have 19, but they keep wanting to come to us. But part of the reason they want to come to us is our outstanding provision for them in terms of sport. And so our SEN department are running lunchtime clubs after school. We have wheelchair basketball, bocce, our FAB club, physical ability club that we run at lunchtime. And the sixth formers also have a big role in that. We have a lot of students that head up sporting activity within the school. So our sports team of students would, from the older years, run activity for the younger years. But there are lots of staff who are involved who are non-teachers, cover supervisors, learning support, non-PE teachers who add into the provision. But the backbone is the PE staff. And you know the efforts that they put in free of charge, and they never cease to amaze me, is phenomenal. And that's how you can offer a program of 20 different sports with 40 plus sporting clubs running outside of school hours. So you
have over 40 clubs in what we'd call extracurricular provision. Yes. So one of the things you've done, which is really interesting, is you've tracked the analysis of achievement against the kids taking part in those clubs. So if we have a look at this statistic, what's that actually telling us, the analysis of achievement versus sporting engagement?
Right, well, I'm a big fan of using data as a lever for change. If you can evidence a reason to go in a certain direction, then it adds strength to that and it allows you to embed that culture moving forward. And so what you can see here, this is analysis of our value-added data. It's actually from 2012, this data, although we think it's even more pronounced this year. But what this indicates is that basically the more students attend extracurricular activity, the more they engage with sporting activity beyond their PE lessons. And I really want to make the point that PE and the 2 hours of PE is the backbone. Yeah. Because the habits that they pick up and the passion that they get within that PE experience and the progress that they make, they then get the applied opportunities to then come to clubs before, during, and after school. So this is really focused not on the PE provision, but on the provision beyond PE. But obviously, PE is the platform. Yes, yeah. I mean, PE is the starting point, and so that's the sort of nucleus of your culture, and what you grow beyond that leads to this. And so this slide in particular, and this just shows you that the more students attend activities, there is a correlation between their academic achievement. And so if you look at the students over 30, they are on average above national average 10 grades, with 6 grades being the national, 6 grades is the number of points per grade. So these students making almost 61 points above national for their value added. And we get the same story for our levels of progress, we get the same story for our 5A stars to C. There is no doubt that and we have the premise that young people that engage with sport, engage with life, and they engage with school.
And what would you say to those people that say to you, well, surely this is kind of an inevitable thing, that the kids who are motivated to take part in lots of sport probably motivated to do well in school? Is the next piece of data helpful?
Yeah, I mean, if we take you on to the next slide, the causation thing, which some people say, well, these students happen to be like this, so they happen to be the sort of kids that will engage with school, and then therefore they will engage with sport and vice versa. That totally undermines the whole issue that people are a subject of their experiences in life. And so if you offer them greater experience, if you offer them greater opportunities to engage, then they as an individual develop, and then therefore that then has a correlative effect on our data. So the data that you see here, what this underlines is that our top 20%, these are the students that made the most progress. So on average, these students were about 16 grades, 2 grades per subject above the national average.
Yeah.
They attended the most clubs, and I think that the bit that's most striking is the students that made the least progress, in fact made negative progress, were the students that hardly attended anything.
Right.
If you just take us on to the next slide,
Yeah.
because a number of people have said to me in the past, well, it's the sort of kids they are, your average, your middle class kid who can afford to go to extracurricular, even though obviously they don't pay for it. But they're engaged with sport outside of school. Their parents run them backwards and forwards. And actually, this slide totally negates all of that, because if you look across the slide there, you've got below level 4, those are students that come in our lowest prior attainment, and you can see that there is significant impact there. Those students are gaining somewhere in the region of sort of 5 grades above national.
Right.
But the really interesting one is at level 4. And at level 4 is students coming in on average ability.
Yeah.
And you can see that those students, 1, attend the most clubs, and 2, their achievement is equally higher in terms of correlation.
Yeah.
The bit that really hits me is free school meals, because there's a real emphasis on how people spend their free school meal funding. And if you look that a student is 36 grades difference, 36 points difference, 6 grades between those students if they don't engage with school. And it goes back to that premise that irrespective of your background, if you can offer opportunities for young people to engage with sport, give them a backbone of outstanding PE, and then lead that into an outstanding extracurricular provision, that then has an impact. And people that say to me, well, maybe it's not. Well, I don't want to leave that to chance. I know that if I offer opportunities and they take them up, they engage more, and that's why we've got the programme that we've got, and that's why it has the impact that it has.
And do you collect this data on an annual basis?
This is every 2 years at the moment, so
right.
we believe that this year's data
it's going to be better.
is going to be even more marked, and I particularly connect with that because those students have grown up in a very different environment where they've had this sort of provision for 5 years.
Right.
And I believe we'll be seeing it in our performance data. We do well at every level, but our evidence shows to us that having an outstanding programme facilitates accelerated progress for young people.
Okay, that's absolutely fantastic, and it's great that you're gathering data, and I agree with you that evidence-based analysis of these things is really powerful in terms of making your case, whether it's to your governors or indeed to government, about the importance of this subject. So let's move on to you, Denise. We're going to have a look here at health literacy. So this is about you as a primary head teacher really wanting to establish a healthy, active lifestyle for every child as early as you can. So just talk to me about your philosophy around this, because I know you have a very strong philosophy about the heart being an important weapon we have to use.
Well, exactly. I see this graffiti on my way to school every single morning, and various messages. First, a healthy heart. It's contributing to health. But your heart is a great enabler, isn't it?
Yeah.
It allows you to climb the stairs quickly or go running after a ball or chase somebody. But also, it's that, the children today talked about dance made them feel, and that's that emotion. So it's all those things caught up that I want children to feel and know about their heart that drives it.
And I mean, one of the things I often get told by or inferred by head teachers is that you as a head teacher are not responsible for the health of your children. That's a parental thing. But you clearly in your school are very determined, aren't you, to ensure that every youngster is literate in terms of health and well-being.
Absolutely. I mean, our statistics show that, yes, we're a good school and the children are committed learners and they enjoy their learning. The attendance is good. They love coming to school, and that's what I want to see on the faces of the children every day. Every day. So
how on earth do you manage to do this? Because again, one of the comments I get very frequently is, I haven't got time. Okay, I buy all this, but I haven't got time to fit it in. But as I understand it, you're offering every young person 60 minutes of activity every single day. Yeah. How on earth? Everybody's sitting there now going, how on earth do you do that? Do you want to just talk us through this slide?
Absolutely. Our mantra is standing still is not an option. So none of us do.
Right.
And I've just listened to Billy, and it's based on team. We've got an astonishing team at school. We've got a small PE department of 3, myself, assistant head and sports coach, but he's grown from being a sports coach into somebody who's fundamentally influenced influencing PE and sport across the school.
Right.
We have high quality, 2 hours of high quality PE as statutory and as necessary. We have a sport for all afternoon on a Friday where the children are engaged in a variety of 8 different sports, so they can find a sport that suits them.
That's every child involved at
Every
that point.
child from
Right.
5 to 11,
Right.
vertically streamed. We have Change for Life Club, where they have become the targeteers, and so they're targeting their peers and the younger children in school.
Fantastic.
And these little bands that are going, oh, that was another 20 minutes, that was another 20 minutes. And so it all adds up, especially the after-school clubs as well that the children attend.
And just talk about what you think as a head teacher, the impact of all of this is on your kids.
It's just the positivity that they come with, and the can-do attitude. They know about personal best. They know that they want to beat themselves. They want to push the boundaries. They want to be the best they can be.
So, final little bit of advice, in a sense. I mean, if Billy's advice is evidence impact, yours is this doesn't happen overnight. And I know this is one of your favourite expressions. So, what would you say to those head teachers that really want to do this but can't quite see how to get there?
Never give up. It's just like the champion potato peeler, one spud at a time.
Bloomin' brilliant. Thank you very much, Denise. So now we're going to move on to talk to John, and John's going to focus with us on emotional well-being, which I know he's very passionate about. So John, when I heard you speak not long ago, you went back to a really simple set of principles which are built on the old Maslow hierarchy. Do you want to talk me through your beliefs around that and how it underpins what you do at school?
Yeah, well, the story I have to tell is one that will resonate with many head teachers, that I inherited a school, an inner city London school, that was characterised by many staff working very, very hard, far harder than many of the students. Sadly, not necessarily working together in terms of addressing things in a similar way. They certainly weren't addressing the right things, but there was a real appetite to make things better.
Yeah.
I always compare it to a rather large football club that really should be pushing for the championship, the premiership, whatever, but was at risk of relegation.
Yeah.
The school, in essence, would have gone into a category owing to the behaviour and the attendance of the children.
Right.
And as you alluded, Maslow has been with me for many years, and when you look to identify what are the barriers, why are these children disengaged? Is it because they're unwilling, or is that they're unable? Often, if they're unwilling, it's to do with the lack of consistency within the school, that strength and virtue of collective endeavour. And if you can get many of those things in place, then you will see the young people responding. And I've, in my previous headships, used PE and sport to bring about significant change. When I looked at our young people, it was a lot to do with emotional well-being. As you can see from the Maslow's hierarchy, most of our young people were arriving watered and fed, not all, but there was a sense that they weren't always safe and within the environment. They didn't feel secure.
Yeah.
And they certainly didn't feel that they belonged. They may have all worn the same uniform, but not all were party to what the school stood for.
Yeah.
So we had to analyse that, and we looked very closely at what their needs were, and we responded accordingly.
And you've really purposely kind of built a team of people, haven't you, and an approach to make sure that every young person's emotional well-being is taken care of. How much of that depends on PE and sport, or is this something you could do without PE and sport at all?
PE and sport in this situation is very much a means to an end. In making those hard decisions to stop spending money on things that we were not getting a reward on, and actually investing in things that we were going to get a return on, we were able to develop various programs. So if you've identified the most vulnerable students, if you've identified what's going to engage them, then you actually invest in the things that are going to reach the harder parts.
Yeah.
And I'll give you 2 examples. We invested heavily in Thought for Sport, where we brought in a very good football coach who happened to be a psychotherapist.
Right.
So he worked with a group of young people who were at risk of exclusion, who found nothing within the school that engaged them. And by working with them on a regular basis and then getting them to reflect upon how they were working, that metacognition stuff, that they were actually able to then use that within the classroom.
But that's a really big skill, isn't it? It's not something that perhaps a coach who wasn't also a therapist could have done.
No.
I think that's sometimes what we think. We think sport's going to do that on its own. And what you're saying, and I think what you've done is you've said, no, it for this kind of issue, where it requires real intervention, it's got to be in the hands of someone who's not just skilled in sport, but skilled in
Absolutely.
the social
Yeah.
and therapeutic
Indeed.
skills you need.
Yeah. And, but another programme that we're involved in is we're very used in schools to accommodating the peripatetic music teacher.
Yeah.
You know, he's going for his music lessons, she's going for her singing lessons. Well, we have young people who go out for their basketball lessons.
Right.
They go and work with a full-time basketball coach. But in the same way that the music teacher or peripatetic teacher will say, now, how's this going to help you with your other lessons? So with the basketball,
Yeah.
how the teamwork, the collaboration, the patience,
Yeah.
the initiative, the leadership, apply that in your English maths. And there is, if you don't do it, I don't want to hear stories about you not being agreeable and compliant and hardworking within your geography and your history, because you will give up your place within the basketball.
Yeah.
But
So it's making those values extrinsic, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's constantly drawing them out
Yeah.
and making young
Yeah.
people aware of
but
them.
working on an individual basis, and we have invested heavily in a team which we call student support services. So we do have full-time counsellors, we do have full-time mentors, we've got mediation team, trained sixth formers who work with our young people, and it's all about that emotional health, as well as having some very clear links with the outside agencies that we bring to the table. We've set up a panel which is called the ISP, which is the the Services Integrated Panel. That meets every week to talk about our most vulnerable youngsters.
Right.
And what are we doing? What's the impact? How can we ensure that they are buying in?
And with all this you've done, using PE and sport very much as a tool in this, as you put it, to tackle some of these issues, you've had some amazing impact. If we look at this slide here on absences, persistent absences, exclusions, number of days lost, the progress you've made, John, is just extraordinary, really.
Yeah. But it's a cliche, isn't it? It's not rocket science. It's about being absolutely consistent with all colleagues. It's about being insistent with all colleagues, about being persistent with all colleagues. And I include that with the students. So if you have very simple structures, but structures that you can see the impact, and Billy was talking about evidence-based before, you can see. And then, this is just part of it. You've got to have an engaging curriculum. You've got to have a lively, engaging pedagogy. You've got to have a climate that allows young people to feel valued
Yeah.
and warm and secure.
Yeah.
But if you're also running alongside, get the buy-in from parents, the buy-in from the young people, then you can start to see it. And that's, if you like, the universal element. Once you've got that, that's what I call the unwilling. They become willing. Then you look at the unable, that's when it's personalised. What can we make them to be able? And
Yeah.
that allows them, therefore, to attend, that allows them to behave, that allows them to thrive.
That's fantastic, and it's a, again, like Billy's stats, it's a wonderful piece of evidence-based impact of the work that you're doing. So, final one, Dawn, I'm going to move to you, if I may. When I heard you speak, I think, although you said many of the things that I think Billy and Denise and John have said about the way you're working, the thing that really struck me was some of your wonderful stories of your individuals in school. And you're particularly very passionate, aren't you, about this impact on the individual child?
Absolutely, yeah. And really, as head teachers, we're all in the same business, aren't we? We are wanting to skill up our children for life in the 21st century. And it's their life. They're on a pathway. And I think by showing them the impact that physical activity, sport, whatever it is for them, can do for them, ensures that they will hopefully have a successful, healthy, happy life going forward. So what skills can we give them for the rest of their life that's going to enable them to do that and to make them people that employers are going to want to take on in the future? It's a huge issue for me personally.
So just talk us through a few of these young people. I remember this slide, so talk me through one of the young people here and the impact that PE and sports had on their life.
Resilience comes into my mind here. It's such a life skill, isn't it? Resilience. Who knows what the future holds for us? We heard that very inspiring talk last night from Claire. It touched me deeply. You just don't know what's going to come along in the future. A young lady in this picture was diagnosed with diabetes and celiac disease, and she took it really badly. She was quite an active, happy child before then, and then she went into this real slump. You know, she didn't want to come to school, she wasn't engaging with her teachers. It was such a transformation. And this is our Year 4 athletics team, who got through to the regional finals last summer. And really, it took her resilience and determination to be part of that team to get herself there. And actually that taught her an awful lot about herself and how she could overcome these medical issues. And rather than being this sort of, oh, it's happening to me, oh dear, isn't that awful? It was, no, you know, I'm going to take charge of this. I'm going to make sure that it doesn't affect my life, actually. I can still do the things that I want to do. That was quite transformational for her.
So in a way, the sport was the thing that made her reach out beyond her illness.
Dig deep.
Dig deep and find the resilience. Okay. And so resilience, I agree with you, both primary and secondary schools, I think it's a really important skill. And it was like John was saying, really, it's about making it extrinsic and explicit rather than assuming children learn this stuff from sport.
Talking her through, you know, why have you discovered this about yourself, so that she does have it for the rest of her life.
I can see that. And you got another one here, you've got 3 likely lads there.
This is one of our Change for Life clubs.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to you about the little chap down there in the corner,
Yeah.
Who was absolutely and utterly thrilled to represent our school in the festival, as you can probably see from his face. When he came to us, he couldn't communicate at all. It was a very sad case. He'd witnessed domestic violence at a very young age, and that really affected his ability to communicate with adults. So he was okay as long as he was doing what he wanted to do, but the minute he got challenged in any way, he used to just hide under the table and growl at us, literally, which for staff was quite a challenge. You know, so how do you deal with that? So we had to find a way to deal with it, because we couldn't be sort of dragging him out all the time, because that's not the way forward. And so we talked to Mum about coming along to our Change for Life club. And through the activities there that were mainly fun-based, you know, led by our very strong learning mentor, who's our sports coach, slowly, over time, earning trust and showing him that, you know, adults are okay, you can trust them, they do listen to you. If you talk to them, so you don't need to hide under the table, you will be listened to. It took a long time, but eventually he found his voice and could communicate with us about his emotions, and that really allowed him then to access the curriculum, because prior to that he wasn't accessing anything. So, you know, Key Stage 1 SATs weren't that far away, so that was a real worry, and how we were going to switch him on to learning, really.
I think, again, you know, communication is such a simple skill in a way that we take so for granted, and yet youngsters are getting worse and worse at it, I fear.
Yeah.
And sport really is an environment within which communication is an essential part of being
Very
involved.
Very much.
Yeah. Just one more story, just to finish us off. So tell us this one.
This is our school football team, who last year won the Hartley Cup, which in Burnley is such a big deal.
That. Big cup.
They're at Turf Moor, which was just amazing for those children, the local football club. But I'd like to hone in on one little boy in that picture, who looks like an absolute dreamboat, a little angel. Now, another sort of life story, really. When he was 6, his mum lost her battle with cancer on Christmas Eve, which was, you know, such a life-changing event for him and the rest of his family. And really, that he was already a bit of a challenge, apparently. He came to us at that point, and he wasn't an angel at that point, because in his life, it was kind of a bring it on attitude. You know, anything you say to me about my behaviour, do your worst, because there isn't much more that you can do to me that hasn't already happened. And that was a really dangerous place for him to be. Behaviour spiralled out of control. It was quite extremely difficult to handle. So we had to try all sorts of different strategies, and to be quite honest, we weren't getting anywhere with him. I'd never excluded a pupil in my life, but he was heading to be the first one. But luckily for us, he was a natural sports person. And again, through the learning mentor sports support that we gave him, he gradually learnt that, you know, he had to start taking responsibility for himself. And if he wanted to be part of a team, the school football team, he had to earn that right So it all went together. You know, behaviour has to be good, then you can be part of the team, then you can feel part of this success.
Like John's basketball example.
As a result of that, this was a very able boy who we were about to lose because he switched off academically as well. But, you know, by turning his life around through sport, he actually got his level 4 in English, which he assured me he would never get. But more importantly, he got his level 5 in maths, which was actually his potential. So, you know, it's important for the academic achievement as well. But I hope we've put him back on that path. That means he won't be excluded now from high school. He transferred last summer and he's doing okay, fingers crossed, because we've got him into football and things at high school.
So sometimes sport acts as an anchor, is what you're saying to me.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Can I just say I love the look on the faces of the people behind as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It
it's
just shows
wonderful.
you how...
Engaging families too, isn't
absolutely.
Yeah,
It
sport
just
engaging
means so
families.
much,
Yeah, it
connects
does.
them to the school
It
as
does.
well. You know,
it? Hard
incredible.
to reach families too.
Okay, well, I think my job is to say a big thank you to Billy, to Denise, to John and Dawn. I hope that has given you some food for thought, not just about the strategies you might employ around health and well-being and the amazing impact you might have on individuals, but on this evidence-based impact that you can have on your own pupils, and more importantly, on advocating both within your own school and beyond your school about the power of PE, sport, health and well-being to change and improve young people's lives.